And our first item on the agenda is a presentation on the Trees Atlanta 1 Million Trees Initiative. And from Trees Atlanta, we have a representative. Ms. Yee is here to tell us a little bit more about the program.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with Trees Atlanta, so if you would allow me to just do a quick overview before I dive into the 1 Million Trees Initiatives, that would be great. So I guess to whoever is running the show, if you can go to the next slide. So oops, let me go back a slide, please. So Trees Atlanta is a nonprofit organization that protects and improves Atlanta's urban forests by doing three things: planting, conserving, and educating. We've been around since 1985 and have planted over 140,000 trees. But even when we do all that, a lot of people are not familiar with what we do. So hopefully I'll give you a quick overview of our mission and our work. Next slide, please. One of the reasons that we do what we do is that trees are rapidly disappearing in the Metro Atlanta. When we live in such a lush green place like Atlanta and in Georgia in particular, we take trees for granted, but our state happens to have three of the top counties that are losing forests year over year. Number 2 is Gwinnett County, then Fulton and Cobb. Our state overall is one of the top states that is losing canopy in the nation. One of the reasons that we say that why is this so important that trees are disappearing at such a rapid rate? Well, trees have a direct correlation to the health and well-being of the human population in the cities that we live. And in Atlanta, we are growing at such a rapid pace. The ARC is projecting that the city will more than double in population by 2050. And the same dynamic is happening throughout Metro Atlanta. We're about at 4.6 million in population for the Metro Atlanta area. And by 2050, we're expecting it to be nearly 9 million. Next slide, please. When these trees disappear, it has tremendous impact in the urban ecosystem. And why does that matter to us? Well, it impacts our ability to control water, the quality of our air, the abundance of our soil, which we are very proud of in Georgia. And of course, it's important to the habitat for the animals and wildlife in this area. And one of the things that we forget is that humans are wildlife. We are part of nature, and trees are so critical for our health and our well-being. The benefits of trees are abundant. Next slide, please. I won't go over all of this, and I believe many people have learned over the last few months, in particular, with so much attention about trees contributing to mitigating climate change and global warming. Those things feel like really far away kind of concepts, but right near us in our cities, trees do immediate benefit, in particular, lowering our heat island in cities like in cities like Atlanta. In a city, because of the way we construct our urban areas, it can be anywhere between 2 degrees hotter to 16 degrees hotter in the summer than in the surrounding landscape around the city. So for these, and in particular for impacts on our health, both physical health and mental health, we believe that it's critical to save the trees in our city. Next slide, please. So Trees Atlanta does these in 3 main areas, as I said: planting, conserving, and educating. Next slide, please. And when we say planting, we usually do it mostly through volunteer work. I won't go into detail for time's sake. So the next slide is conserving, and this is a little less known. In addition to planting trees, clearing up invasive species from existing forested spaces is important for the health of existing trees, and we will go in and remove invasive vines, Chinese privet, and replant that area with native species that will help forests thrive. Next slide. And of course, educating. Some of our most popular program is for education of youth and adults. This summer, we just completed a program called the Youth Tree Team, which is a job training program for teenagers. We also have summer camp, which unfortunately was delayed this year. And we go into over 50 schools throughout the Atlanta area. And if you have elementary school classes that you would like for us to visit during the school year, I'd love to talk to you about that. And in adults, We have a lot of speaker classes and how-to classes to teach adults how to take care of their trees in their communities, and most importantly, what to do to take action to plant more and to conserve more. Next slide, please. And lastly, a newest area of Trees Atlanta is advocacy. We are taking it to the next level where our hands-on doing sometimes is simply not enough. And we're going to communities and to elected officials to advocate for policies to change so that we can protect more trees. And this brings us to the 1 Million Trees Initiative. If I could go to the next slide, please. So what is the 1 Million Trees Initiative? It's relatively simple. It is a collaborative effort to preserve Atlanta's tree canopy. We have already garnered 10 nonprofits to join this effort, and we are trying to identify 10 founding cities or counties in the Metro Atlanta area to join us in this initiative. It is a 10-year goal that we hope to complete by 2030 to plant or protect 1 million trees. Next slide, please. So these are the nonprofit organizations that have already signed on to this initiative. Some of the most prominent conservation organizations in the area. And to date, this slide is already outdated. We've got our 4th city, the end of last week, the city of Brookhaven has officially signed on by approval of their city council. And hopefully today, your city council will also vote to approve to join this initiative. We hope to have 10 founding cities in the Metro Atlanta to kick us off on this initiative, and we'll continue adding other organizations. But we would very much like to invite the city of College Park because of your past relationship with us, and we know that being so contiguous to the city of Atlanta, we know it's an important partner to have in this initiative. Next slide, please. So how to become a partner? It is very simple. It will just take an approval of this body tonight for you to formalize it in a letter of some sort or a resolution, and that's it. And you agree to some simple guidelines that we ask of you, which I will go over in a minute. But there are no fees or no financial commitment that we're asking for. We just ask you to commit to the tree planting and care initiatives that you already have going on in your city, but no additional commitment is required. Next slide, please. So what will Trees Atlanta do? We will basically lead the entire program, do all the coordination. We'll create timelines. We'll help consolidate all the tracking that's involved. We'll start developing marketing and material with your input, and we'll help you design programs communicated outwardly to your community. Next slide, please. And what is the role of a partner? We ask that each city partner plant trees, whether you do it on your own as your city employees do it, or you organize volunteer events with us or independently, or you encourage other people to do it. We ask you to track and report the number of trees planted or conserved in your city parameters. And we ask you to promote the 1 Million Trees Initiatives and its goals, because half of the battle at this point is to educate more people why it's important to conserve the trees in our cities and neighborhoods. A unique item that we also ask you to do is perhaps identify land to conserve forested land. So if you have a densely forested area of 2 or 3 acres and you can put it into protection, that will be counted as trees preserved. So basically that is the program in summary, and I hope that we have your city support and that you will become a partner in this initiative.
Thank you, Ms. Yee.
You're welcome.
Any questions?
Yes, I have some. I've been on council 12.5 years, and roughly, I'd say about 10 years ago, we had an initiative with Trees Atlanta where Trees Atlanta provided a bulk purchase of trees from nurseries. We had an arrangement, I think it was, for one was the Historic College Park Neighborhood Association. I think it was with them. And people could sign up to have a tree planted in their yard. Trees Atlanta would bring in an arborist that would talk to the homeowner that had signed up, and paid their, I think it was a very nominal fee. It strikes me as maybe $10 or something, but it was a small fee. Maybe it was 25. I don't know. And they would advise the homeowner on what kind of tree would do best in what location on the property. And then there were a group of volunteers. My wife and I, for example, were volunteers. And we received instruction from the arborist as to how to plant a tree in case we didn't know how to plant a tree correctly. And then we would take, there were a group of us, and we would go to these various homes that we were assigned to, and we would plant a tree in their front yard. Now, one of the homes was our front yard. We have a very nice tree, must be a good 30 feet, 40 feet tall at this point. And I know of another home where we planted a tree, and theirs looks even better. It had more water and more sun. So can we replicate something like that again?
Absolutely. It's all depends on you, really, what the city would like to, how you would like to partner with us. Now, some of those programs that you mentioned, Mr. Clay, is requires a contract with the city, with Trees Atlanta, to fund the acquisition of those trees, as you can imagine. But any of those programs we can put back on the table or continue. We already do plant some trees within College Park, but one of the programs that you mentioned is Front Yard Tree Program. Right now we have 4 cities participating in it, and it allows us to plant a particular number of front yard trees depending on the size of the contract. So for example, the city of Atlanta allows us to plant up to 3 trees in front yards to any homeowner who wants it. Brookhaven, for example, I think they only allow 2. Another city might ask us to collect a $25 application fee. Other cities say it's completely free. So we're able to construct that particular program for College Park in the way that works best for you. The other program that you mentioned is just our regular weekend volunteer programs. We do that from October to March. And if you would like for us to organize planting programs in College Park, we can absolutely do that. And we'd love to talk to you about starting that up again or increasing the volume of it in the future. So that would be fantastic.
Great.
Any questions about the 1 Million Trees Initiative?
And it's precisely because of things like you just mentioned, Mr. Clay, that the 1 Million Trees Initiative will amplify these programs and make it very particular to College Park so that it's most relevant to your community. So we'll work in collaboration with you to create new programs if you need, or just to extend the ones that we already have. But not only are we actually accelerating the number of trees you're planting, but let's try to educate more people and increase general awareness why trees are such an elegant solution to so much of the environmental issues that are coming our way.
Well, we have had a lot of trees, in my opinion, come down over the last several years, at least in my area, which is the northern part of the city, on the west side, mostly on the west side of the tracks. And old trees that are maybe 100 years old or more have come down. We've lost a lot of dogwoods. They don't live very long. So, and they were planted in the tree line. So they were city trees that were planted. And so I don't, for me, I'm only one vote, but for me, joining in this initiative is a no-brainer. It's beneficial in so many different ways. Psychologically, I think it's beneficial to have trees on the landscape. And as I say, we've lost a number of trees and they need to be replaced. Now, maybe they don't need to be as big as the giant oaks that we've had. Maybe they need to be smaller trees, but something needs, I think, to go in there. So I would be in favor of being a founding city. I don't know where the rest of the council is. And I certainly would like to see us get involved in a program like I described and like you've been describing, where we could actually plant some trees. Like I say, in the program that I'm familiar with, there was a cost to the homeowner, but it was very nominal. And I think most people would be willing to pay that amount.
Well, thank you for your support.
I think that it's also, I'm sorry, Councilman Allen, go right ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was going to say,
I'm for the program. I like it. I think there's one extra part you need to do as well, which you've included in your package, is, once Ambrose goes out and plants everybody's trees, you need to work with the homeowner on how to make sure they don't kill the tree. When to water it, how to take care of it. So that part of the education part,
Right.
I'd like to see that along with it. So, and I'll be more than happy to volunteer and go out and plant trees too.
All right.
With our masks on.
There you go. I think one of the concerns that I had when I was thinking about this whole initiative is 6 West, because we know we're going to be getting rid of a lot of trees. And if we can work with Trees Atlanta to try to minimize that, and to think as we are moving forward in that development, think actively about that, because that area is important for people, and a lot of people gather there for recreational purposes, et cetera, and enjoy being in the outdoors. So if we're getting rid of trees, then let's think about where else we put them, especially given our relationship to the airport. And Ms. Yee, I don't know if there have been conversations with Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, but certainly we have some restrictions about what we can do in terms of planting trees. And we've had trees come down in the last several years because they were a little too tall for the flight path and such. So we'd have to think creatively about that as well. But I agree with you, Councilman Clay. I think it's a no-brainer, but certainly want to know what others are thinking about it.
Well, as far as the airport, we have been talking with the airport, with the surrounding cities. As I'm sure you guys are involved in the Aerotropolis project and initiative. So they are very open to the idea of tree preservation. Obviously, they have restrictions, but surrounding businesses and landowners have participated. For example, Porsche is a planting partner, and they have allowed us to plant a number of trees on their property. But we can be very creative about finding areas to plant more trees. And in addition, what's critically important, especially in the heat island that you guys are so close to, is preserving the existing trees. And we can talk about strategies on how to protect more trees in your community.
Well, the airport has been very good. When we took down those trees along the flight path, they paid for an additional placement of trees to replace them. So we've had a good partnership with the airport in that area as well. And one other thing to keep in mind, Mayor, what we're talking about doing with the Flint River project,
absolutely, yep,
is absolutely supportive of this project.
That's right.
Agreed.
We work closely with Hannah also. Are you talking about finding the Flint project?
Yes, Hannah Palmer,
yeah.
Yep.
What a delightful project, and important one too. So that's exciting.
All right, does anyone have any other questions? All right, so I think the thing to do would be to add this to the regular session and get authorization to be one of those founding cities, if everyone's in agreement with that.
Sounds great.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Councilman Gay?
I'm good with it.
Okay, I heard 3 goods with it. So, all right. Ms. Yee, thank you so much for your presentation and your time today. And we will get approval at the 7:30 meeting, but we appreciate it, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Take care.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
All right. Item number 2 is an update regarding the College Park Recreation and Cultural Arts football program, as well as such for an alternate option for an instructional football program. I got a little lost with the as well as there, but I'm going to turn it over to Michelle Johnson,
Hey,
who
good
can
evening, Mayor.
further clarify. Thank you.
Good evening, you guys. This is super exciting. I'm hoping we can get these kids back to active play in somewhat of a limited capacity. So staff is excited about possibly just doing an instructional football league. The league that we were looking at was YFA, and they decided to push it until the spring. So staff really would like to get the kids outside, at least doing some instructional football. So that's our what we've got on the table. We're still kind of concerned about the reason for the YFA not doing a football season is basically not all the parks are open in order to host those football games at different facilities. So that's why we kind of went back to an instructional situation where the kids could get out there, run their plays. The coaches would still like to go out and find their own league and pursue that if each individual team would like to do that. I think we've got 5 teams right now. We've got 11 and under, 6 and under, 8, 7, and a 9. So we've got some teams together. So with the option of them going and doing wherever they want to do, I'm still not quite sure that the leagues are going to go. They keep pushing between NCAA from high school. So I hate to invest in a league and think that it might get canceled. So I thought maybe the instructional would be an opportunity for us to at least get the kids out there and start getting them back active. So I just wanted to kind of inform you what we were looking at doing and kind of get thoughts and feedback on what you guys might feel about that.
Where would this
Michelle,
take place?
football is a contact sport.
Correct.
So how do you train for football and maintain social distancing?
So we're following Georgia High School Association's rules. So they are doing contact, but we are limiting other ways in their social distance, like the basketball with hosting the games. So it would be limited. We're not looking at any parents out there. It would just be the teams running plays, just trying to get moving. There will be some contact, but limited contact. So, and Georgia High School has a whole list of bringing their own water bottles, really trying to do following the guidelines, face masks for coaches, temperature checks, trying to follow those guidelines. But the psyche, I'm concerned about the psyche of the kids. We've got to get moving at some point in time.
Well, the more and more that I read, the more that's discovered about this virus. There's a lot of feeling now that a lot of the transmission is airborne as opposed to contact.
Okay.
And so if you're on the lineup and you hike the ball and I'm shoulder to shoulder with the opposing team running a practice drill, how do I keep from breathing in whatever they're exhaling and vice versa?
So we're not looking at hosting games. We're just looking at.
But you're not going to do that in practice. That's why I'm saying, what kind of practice? If you're talking about passing the ball down the field, that's one thing. But if you're talking about running plays and scrimmage, you're going to have a red team and a blue team, and they're head on breathing in each other's face.
But
That's my only concern.
Yeah, we're not really looking at scrimmaging for the teams are just going to be practicing. If they want to go outside and join a league, that would be up to them. We're just giving them an opportunity to get out on the field to get moving. So it would be just that team out there.
Well, I have played football for a short period of time. I had asthma and I didn't last very long, but I did run scrimmage, and there was always an A and a B team.
Correct.
And you were lined up side by side, and you were pushing against the opposite team member. And so if you're not going to run scrimmage, that's one thing. If you're just passing, that's another thing. I don't think how you can do it without avoiding close contact. And that's what bothers me.
Yeah, understand.
Where would you
Anyone
be
else?
doing the practicing on the football fields at Badgett, or all of it would be there, or would it be at different locations?
No, at Badgett, with the 6 teams, we would spread out practice times and spacing and days and times for them to get out there to do that.
Any other questions? What is the consensus of the body?
I think it's a good idea to get the kids out there. they're going to have some contact. They're going to have some contact in school. They're going to have some contact basketball, but I think we need to get the kids out doing some exercising and doing some things.
I would agree with Ken on the need to do it. I just have concerns about the ramifications of it. I have a question for Winston. If we do put on these practices, what's our legal responsibility if someone contracts the disease? Winston? Winston is muted.
Well, he has the ability to unmute. I'll send him a message. I've unmuted.
If we were to do it, I would strongly recommend that we somehow protect ourselves from liability.
I agree with that.
I mean, this is a moving target. I mean, it's certainly one of the things that the Senate is discussing right now. So I don't know.
Madam Mayor and Council, we have updated our release to include COVID. We did that in the middle of, back in, I think it was May. I reached out to attorneys and we have updated that release. They looked over our current release forms. I don't know if that helps in some way, but we have added that to our.
Has that been approved by our attorney?
Yes, it was communication through them.
So we believe it's legally defensible.
Well, they've overlooked it. That was the information that I had them add to our current release terms and conditions that we had prior to me stepping in the position. I wanted to make sure that we were protected in that sense.
Well, I won't. I'd love to see the kids out there. I'm totally in agreement with Ken. I just don't know how to do it safely. I won't vote against it, but I'm not going to vote for it. I'll probably abstain if it comes to a vote.
I mean, this seems like an operations thing. I don't know that. I mean, I think we're just.
That's correct, Madam Mayor. This is daily operations, the Recreation and Cultural Arts. Michelle and I, we spent time together. In fact, Michelle and I spent time together in which the direction to involve the Office of the City Attorney to incorporate the provisions she just summarized so that we can cover ourselves as well as we possibly can and as protective as we possibly can. So with that, the suggestion from the Office of the City Manager was to give Council an opportunity to listen in into some of the thoughts we have in mind. So at this point, any consensus to this effect would be appreciated, but not a formal vote is required.
Okay, well, you can drop me out of the consensus. I'm not part of the consensus.
Councilman Allen,
I'm for it. I mean, I played from the time I was 8 years old and at Georgia Tech and everywhere else. And you can structure practices where you're running plays, where you're pitching the ball and keep contact to a minimum, but the kids learn plays, they learn where to line up, they learn how to throw the ball, they learn, they can learn a lot of good basic fundamentals that would, I think, help them. Plus they would get instruction, which I think helps them later on in life as well. That's my feeling.
Councilman Allen, I'm sorry, Councilman Taylor.
I think we either got to do it or we don't. Because I don't understand the instructional football. Because as a parent or even as a coach, if we're not going to play a season, what are we practicing for? So I don't know. I don't understand how that'll work in the first place. If the YFL been canceled, that means that our kids in College Park, if we trying to play in that league, they're not going to play. So you're going to start something that you can't finish. I can't. Why would I bring my child to practice and they're not gonna play? That doesn't make sense in the first place. But I do agree, kids do need to get out, and it's a parent's decision if they want to do that, let their child play. But I don't understand how we gonna do it as a city, and we just gonna let our kids run around for 2 or 3 hours every day, and they're not gonna play a game. That don't make sense.
Councilman Taylor, they were going to look at the coaches wanting to see if they can go outside the league that we were originally going to do. So that would be up to them. If they wanted to play, they could.
So basically, they just asking for somewhere to practice it.
Correct. A lot of places are looking for practice. A lot of the parks are closed that aren't hosting any type of leagues at all. So that's part of the problem. That's one of the reasons why I'm not all in on doing games, is that we may schedule and something 3-4 weeks down the road, they may cancel, and then we've committed to something, uniforms. So it's that moving target. It's kind of hard to commit to something when, Georgia high schools still push back 2 weeks. So it would just give an opportunity to prepare and almost just like train until possibly the spring league, if we decide to do the YFA spring league.
See, that's like, for an example, that's all. They just want to get their permission to practice on our field, because in order for them to play against another team, they got to be in that league. So we're just trying to, I guess, get authorization to let them practice.
Well, they'd still be registering with us for the instructional, for the time basically to practice on the field. It's basically what they would be doing. And if they want to just practice, they can practice. And if those coaches want to gather up the parents and decide to get into a league, that I still am not sure any of those, Capital City is one that they still haven't made a decision, but Spiffle, a lot of the other leagues have either gone to a flag or have decided not to do anything until spring or until next year.
Okay.
Any other questions? Councilman Gay, what are your thoughts?
I don't know. It's a rough one. I really don't have a problem with the children trying to get out and get involved, as long as the adults can monitor it. I'm okay with them using the field.
All right, I think that's 3 that are okay with it. I just certainly don't want a North Georgia YMCA situation. That is the sort of the worst nightmare. But I think you got your consensus. Any other questions? Any other thoughts? Hearing none, I'll see everybody at 7:30. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank y'all.